The Florida Gators have added what we think will be their final commitment of the 2025 recruiting class, Javari Flowers. You are a Florida Gator.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. And this is not the last time, or this might be the last time that we are talking about a Florida Gators commitment for the 2025 class. We thought Ernest Conan Bonnie would be that last time, but nope, it's Javari Flowers. Blue chip Billy strikes again with Javari Flowers here. And if you don't know the story of Javari Flowers, I'm not going to pretend that I know his full story, his full background, his whole life, and all that stuff. I will say that he is likely the final commit of the 2025 recruiting class. And one of the reasons that this is happening so late is because he initially was part of the 2026 class and then late January reclassified to the 2025 class. He is a four-star corner on 24/7. He is someone that I think that at first was overlooked when he first reclassified, and then eventually they can, because if I'm not mistaken, he started way higher. And then they've corrected it, and he's a four-star on 3, four-star on 24/7, top 100 player on 3, top 100 player on ESPN, top 100 player on Rivals. In fact, he's a 55th overall player on Rivals, which is the highest that he is anywhere. He's 82nd on 3, 73rd in the ESPN, and he's not ranked nationally on 24/7. But I do think that part is because of how late it happened. Because again, he's a four-star player there. He's not going to be just not ranked there. But he's listed at 5'10 and a half, 175 on 3. His Twitter says that he's 6 foot 177, which probably means that he's closer to 5'11, 175, 177. There's no real difference there. Size-wise, he's pretty similar, and even build-wise, I'll say, pretty similar to that of Sharif Denson, who currently plays the star. And I do think that both in the short term and in the long term, we're going to see Javari Flowers playing in the nickel for the Florida Gators. He's going to be playing that star spot. I think that he's fantastic. I mean, you cut the film, and his high school film, the junior season, first play is runs in man eyes, running down, gets a pick, and houses it. Right, like that's his first play. It's just an incredible athletic feat, and he's gone. Then you see some of his special teams film, some of his return ability, and I can tell you this because I know that I've seen Florida Gators fans on Twitter and in the Insider program and on Discords and everything talk about, well, he's one hell of a return man. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, he is. I'm not taking that away from him. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying he's not. I just don't see Billy Napier putting the kind of return man that Javari Flowers is back there to return punts. Kicks, I feel like they usually put, more stout build, like running back types there. So I wouldn't expect that anyway. But on punt return, I'm not expecting Javari Flowers to be there, because when you watch Javari Flowers' return ability, and even when you watch him get a pick, like he has no problem reversing across field and flipping the field the entire time and going to make a play like that. And many people will love it, myself included. However, let's say this, does anybody here think that is really something Billy Napier is going to do? That Billy Napier would put someone that's going to reverse field We love it, or at least I love it. I know a lot of other people will love it because the dynamic playmaking ability, it's incredible. He becomes a receiver with the ball in his hands. He does. But that's a riskier, more aggressive return source, I guess we'll say, or return tendency, we'll say. And that doesn't exactly line up with what Billy likes to have at returner, right? Or at least not that we've seen at his time at Louisiana or in Gainesville. He usually wants someone that, hey, maybe you wiggle a little bit, but you're kind of going, hey, I'm going to get downfield quickly. Like that's been the move. That's been the goal. So I don't know if he's going to actually be used as a returner. I don't think of him as a returner that would fit with what Billy likes to do, but hopefully, maybe Joe Houston will help change that. Hopefully, Joe Houston now in year 2 can help change that. Also, Javari Flowers fits the typical Billy Napier recruit of, hey, height, weight, length, verified speed, all that stuff, because Javari Flowers also a track athlete. Not surprising, but also a track athlete. Been very successful there, and I would expect Florida to love that, right? I think everybody is going to love that, whether you're a Florida Gators fan that likes Billy or not. I do think that you see a track athlete line up, and it's at least a bit exciting, right? It adds more depth to this Florida cornerback room. It adds more youth to this Florida cornerback room, to the star position specifically, which right now is pretty thin. I'm not saying I expect him to make much of an impact this year because, well, it's not exactly easy to come in and immediately pick up a defensive playbook, right? So I wouldn't expect that. But it is nice to know that at least long term, you've got someone that you can trust and have a little bit of faith in and has dynamic ability with the ball in his hands. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we get back with this bonus episode of Locked On Gators. March Madness is wrapping up, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Walter Clayton threes, just saying, to Thomas Houck rebounds, just saying. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action to wrap up this tournament season. Thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. And adding Javari Flowers, I love it. I think that it gives this Florida Gators 2025 class just a bit more oomph to it, right? And I say that knowing that this high school class is one that I think a lot of us are very fond of. You look at the Vernell Browns, you look at the Dallas Wilsons, you look at the Ben Hanks, Jaden Woods, Hilton Stubbs, Lagonza Hayward, Tavares Dice, who's currently dealing with an injury, but Tavares Dice, Jalen Wiggins, Nay Montgomery is someone that everyone loves. And you look at this class, and they're 8th, I think, high school wise, they're 8th in the country. And it's just now you add another blue chip player to this, and it's fantastic, right? Like now you've added another blue chip that makes this class that much better, that makes this secondary that much better long term. And like I've said, I think that they have rebounded with a really good class with what just a few weeks to a month or so right before signing day was a horrible class, right? It was a class that looked pretty bad. It was a class that was at risk, we'll say, of falling apart had things not ended the way that they ended in the season. But overall, this is a very good class now, right? And I'm saying that regardless of rankings of individuals, which I'm going to go off on a little tangent here for a second. Because when I'm talking about rankings of individuals, like I gotta say, I think I'm just done with caring about player rankings, right? And like, I'll still celebrate if there's a blue chip player. Sure. Like we'll celebrate a blue chip for the sake of it being a blue chip, right? We'll celebrate that. But I think that this year more than ever, I have disagreed with so many rankings, not in like a let's see, let's just pick a player. Not just like, oh yeah, Dallas Wilson. They have Dallas Wilson as the 8th receiver in the country. It's not just as simple as that, right? It's not just as simple as, oh, he's 8th, I think he should be 6th. It's crazy things like Dallas Wilson didn't go to a camp that was sponsored by this site or that this site was at. And so they hurt his ranking. And that stuff to me is just so brain dead. It just doesn't make sense. And so I feel like now we've gotten to a point where it's just so clear that these services, on 3, 24/7, Rivals, ESPN, if there's anybody else, whatever, I think that we've gotten to a point where it's just so clear that these services are, first off, very commercial now, right? It's not like, I feel like at the start it used to be just like, hey, this is for the love of the game. And now it's very commercial. It's, capitalism, great, yes. All that stuff, sure. But it seems like now they really just lean into what we see a lot now, which is like, let's get the clicks and the views and let's care about that. And let's make sure that we are the best and we hype that up. And if we hurt a kid's ranking, then that's going to hurt them, right? If we lower a kid's ranking, that's going to hurt them. So if they don't come to our camp, then they're going to get hurt. And so now there's that incentive to go more. And it seems like it's become very commercial. And I think most of us know that it's always been like that, but it has never been as egregious as it is now. Like, it is crazy to see, oh, hey, Dallas Wilson hasn't played football in a couple months. Or we'll say at the least he hasn't played football, in a month or so. Had a great year. Didn't show up to a camp. We're going to hurt his ranking. This guy, and I don't just mean Florida-wise, right? I'm not doing the thing where it's just like, oh, well, if you go to Florida, they're going to hurt your ranking. No, I'm doing the thing where I say that these rankings are pure clown shows now. That's it. That's what they are. They're clown shows now. It's ridiculous. And so I look at these rankings, and I just there's so many that I disagree with just on a fundamental level that I just can't respect the player rankings anymore. And that obviously impacts team rankings. So for the 2026 class, we're probably going to cover recruiting a little bit differently, right? Like, again, like I said, that we'll cover team ranking. We'll cover the blue chip stuff. We'll cover even the 3-stars and everything. But we're going to focus much more on strictly just what I think of the players. I'm not going to, sure, we'll talk about the ranking and see how they match up. But, some of this stuff, like some of these ranking sites should be embarrassed with themselves. And I'm not even saying this in regards to Javari Flowers. They have him, like I said, like 82nd, 70 something, 55th. So that I don't mind so much. It's just that there's some stuff that it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, like they should be embarrassed with themselves. I just can't get over it. Javari Flowers, though, very good player. Added to the secondary. And again, I think that you'll see him play the slot, especially when you look at him again, depending on where you look, he's listed between 5'10" and 6 feet. And I feel like when you look at that size and you look at how Florida has recruited, that tells you, hey, we look at him more like a slot. That's just how they've been recruiting. So that's how I look at it. Again, build wise, he's more similar to Sharif Denson than any other corner on the team. So that's how I would look at it. I love the addition. I think that he tops off the class beautifully. I think Florida's done with 25 now, which we thought they were done with 25 before. And then they went and added Javari Flowers because they can. And this is a talent acquisition business. So good job on, hey, a player's available. Let's go add him. Let's go get better. And let's finalize this and let's keep building. And so it's a great addition for the Florida Gators. I love it. We will be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators basketball. It's Final Four time. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free for the podcast and on YouTube. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. And I will see you all next time.